After 6 seasons, Cobra Kai has come to an end. And the showrunners, Josh, John, and Hayden, have discussed doing spin-off series, and they're developing these right now. So I wanted to do an edition of Geekdom Movie Talk, even though it's more TV and movie talk, discussing what kind of spin-offs John, Josh, and Hayden can do, what works and what doesn't work, and the future of the Cobra Kai / Karate Kid franchise. Now, there is a new movie coming out in May, Karate Kid Legend, starring Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio, and that movie in and of itself could also introduce characters that could be used for future series too, but from what I understand, the creative team behind that film is not the same people that are behind Cobra Kai. So that while that could all incorporate, that remains to be seen. So I want to discuss all of that, the spin-offs and everything right now. And joining me, frequent guest of the channel, but it has been a little bit of time, Real to Real, man. What's up?
Always good to be here, man. Thank you for having me. Been looking forward to having this conversation ever since before the third part of season 6 came out. So obviously after now it's been out, we know how it ends. There's a lot of discussion here, and I hope that people enjoy this, like the pitches and ideas that other people have been coming up with, you and I have been coming up with, and how it goes from there.
You know, the last time you were here, we discussed, I think it was actually the Creed Rocky and what they can do with that. And Cobra Kai is very similar in that it's that underdog story, but Cobra Kai also incorporates a lot of that 90210 teen drama, but not every Cobra Kai spinoff has to follow that formula. So I want to start by discussing some of the ones that John, Josh, and Hayden themselves have been talking about, as well as the fans. And the first one I want to get to is a Mr. Miyagi prequel. Now, the reason as to why I think this is probably the most likely one they're going to do is because, number one, they've already got the young Miyagi actor cast. We saw him in season 6, episode 10 in Daniel's Dream, so he can play young Miyagi in this series. Number two, we've already got an open mystery. We know that Mr. Miyagi at the Sekai Taikai sometime in the past killed someone. Now, we don't know if it was accidental or what. Mr. Miyagi never really came off like a bad man, and these things do happen in competition. So that is something they could explore. And then also we can get a bit more backstory on how Mr. Miyagi went from being, you know, a World War veteran, you know, and then obviously a martial artist. And there's a lot there. And I do like how John, Josh, and Hayden recently said that it's not necessarily something that Daniel has to know about. He just is comforted in knowing that that what he said in season 6 to Johnny, which is that our masters are not perfect, they're just people. And I like the idea of taking Miyagi and going into some of the more mythological sides of him, but still humanizing him at the same time.
I love the idea of doing a Miyagi prequel series. One, because, and quite frankly, I think that this one makes more sense than probably anything else that we're going to be discussing here today.
Yeah.
And I think the showrunners of Cobra Kai know that. Primarily for what you said is like this is a different tone. This doesn't have to be kind of a teenage drama type of show.
It's probably going to be less comedic.
Yeah, you're dealing with a very tragic character. Someone like Mr. Miyagi has, you know, a broad backstory that can support multiple seasons of the show. And like you said, it gives the audience context of some of the mysteries that were brought up in Cobra Kai, but not necessarily followed up on or fully explained. But it doesn't have to then become this ongoing drama or mystery for Daniel to solve, right? Brought up in Cobra Kai, you watch them, even if you watch them in chronological order from the time that, you know, from the time the Mr. Miyagi prequel, then the Cobra Kai franchise films, and then Cobra Kai, or not Cobra Kai, but Karate Kid, and then Cobra Kai and Karate Kid Legends, like that. You get a full sense of it. You know that Daniel's kind of aware of some of the mysteries that were impacted or at least expounded upon within this prequel, but it doesn't have to define Daniel as a character. to me, it makes a whole lot of sense and something that I would absolutely love to see. And like you said, they already did cast this character, and it seems unbelievable to me that they would have cast this character with how successful that this show has been, without the intention of, we need to make sure that this guy doesn't just look the part, but he can actively act the part. I mean, we don't really know based on what we see, but that's just the implication that I got.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, like we discussed, it has to be a different tone. I can see there being a little bit of comedy, but it's just not going to be anywhere near on the level of, like, Johnny Lawrence not understanding technology. Like, it's not going to have that kind of humor. And the guys that wrote Cobra Kai are comedians. I mean, Hot Tub Time Machine, the Harold and Kumar movies, those guys excel at comedy. And because of that, I think that if we do get a Miyagi prequel, I don't see this thing going 6 seasons. I would imagine a Miyagi prequel series could go for 2, maybe 3. I think when you start going past that, you're starting to go into silly territory. I just don't think that a show like this would work for more than 3 seasons.
I somewhat agree. I mean, quite frankly, I know that they would like to keep the franchise going as long as it can go. And as I said, the Miyagi prequel series to me makes the most sense out of pretty much anything else that we're going to be talking about today, at least right now. I know you have some secret stuff up your sleeve, but for me, maybe 3 or 4 seasons. I honestly don't know. It would just be interesting to see them continue this backstory as they push forward with any type of future continuation in the movies, like a sequel to Karate Kid Legends or whatever Netflix decides to do in the future with new series or movies or something else like that.
Yeah, it would be between Sony and Netflix to figure all that out. Well, yeah, and also with a Miyagi prequel, it actually gives the audience more time to miss the core characters of Cobra Kai because they won't be there because many of them wouldn't even been born yet. So that's a good opportunity. Now, another spinoff that I see people talking about that I have my reservations about is I've seen people say they want to see the story of the Binary brothers going to college. That is to say, Demetri and Eli/Hawk. Now, look, I enjoyed the Hawk character both as a villain and when he was redeemed. And the character of Demetri was fun, even though he got really annoying in season 6. I'll be honest. I know people want to see these guys go off to college and see their adventures, and that would absolutely fit with the kind of writing that John, Josh, and Hayden do, because you could have, they've done Harold and Kumar, so you can have like lots of comedy in this show, maybe a bit of a different tone, maybe less karate. But if I'm being honest, as much as I like the character of Hawk and Demetri, I don't know if I do not know if I would be all that interested in them being the main stars of a show. I think they work very well as secondary protagonists or even like side characters, but I just don't. And I know Hawk has a lot of fans, and I know a lot of them were mad that he didn't get any fights in the last part of the series, and I get it. It's just, I'm not sure if a show with just those two, it would be funny, but again, if they do it, I don't see it being like 6 seasons and having all this stuff, happen. But it would give them an opportunity to bring in some of the Cobra Kai cast in guest appearances like Robbie and Miguel, making cameos and whatnot. That could be fun. But I just don't know if they can maintain a whole show. What do you think?
They certainly can't maintain a whole show. I know what you're talking about here. I know the fans have been talking about it a lot recently, and probably because of that, they've actually talked to the showrunners saying, hey, is this something that you're thinking about doing? And I saw them talking about it. I don't know the exact quote, but to me it read like kind of a joke. Like, oh yeah, we've been talking about that. That's something that we would love to do and everything. And like you said, they're comedians first and foremost, right?
Yeah.
With Harold and Kumar and everything. So it makes sense that they would want to continue some kind of comedic stretch, or at least continue the same tone as the original Cobra Kai with that comedic streak. Again, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me as an ongoing series, but if I could throw a little curveball here, as much as I do like these characters, they don't need to come back unless it's either literally a mini series, like a mini story.
Yeah.
Like this is what they got up to, or some kind of Marvel's like presents.
I was
Something like that.
I was gonna say that Marvel recently announced a Punisher special. So if they do like maybe like you said, like maybe a special Netflix only movie, like a 90-minute, 2-hour movie, I could see that. But having a long running show, 10 episodes a season, I'm not so sure about it. Now I'm not saying I
Exactly.
wouldn't try it, but I'm just not super confident.
Well, the thing is those characters, like you have to wonder the depth of those characters and whether they can hold your attention for that long. And while they're decent characters, they are still secondary. They're side characters to the overall story of Cobra Kai. I mean, and you also have to wonder, like, anything can be good. They can rewrite this. They can figure out a direct story that plays to the strengths of each of them.
Yeah.
But what is going to hold the audience's attention? And quite frankly, and maybe this is just because I'm not paid the big bucks to figure out exactly what the best story is for any individual character, but all I see is, what if Revenge of the Nerds but Karate Kid?
Yeah, I mean, that's true. And the other thing, too, actually, that I think people have to remember, because I don't think people really think about this type of stuff, is that one of the reasons that Cobra Kai was so popular was not just because of the young cast. A lot of the reason as to why I got into the show and fans of the original Karate Kid was to see what has been the life of, Johnny, Daniel, John Kreese, later on Terry Silver, Allie. All these characters we met in the original trilogy, it's been, 30 something years. What has happened to their lives? And I think if you jump into a Demetri and Hawk show, you're kind of maybe overexposing the characters to where when the time comes for an actual new Cobra Kai series with the original cast, which I am going to talk to you about here shortly, down the road, this is years down the road, but like one of the things that would make that show interesting is what has happened to Miguel? What has happened to Robbie? How have they changed? These are all things that people forget that made Cobra Kai intriguing. Like, is John Kreese really a changed man? Or is he still crazy like that? And then, the reintroduction of Terry Silver and Chosen and even Mike Barnes, like all that stuff made the show so fun because you had to know what was going to happen next. And I think doing a long form show about them kind of, takes away from the mystery. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, for sure. And like you said, it's kind of hopping on the bandwagon way too soon to reintroduce yourself to these characters, at least when it comes to a prolonged format like a television show.
Yeah. Now, another one that I've seen batted around a lot is the story of Robbie and Tory. At the end of season 6, Robbie and Tory got a couple of contracts to do martial arts internationally and be these like martial arts spokespersons. So Robbie got a happy ending despite a lot of the fans not liking it. Now, look, I am never going to go against seeing more Tory on my screen. I don't think it's possible for there to be too much Tory on my screen. However, again, I think this show could have more legs than the Demetri and Eli show because it's about a couple. It would involve them traveling the world. There are great stories and fun stories that can be told about them going to Japan, going to Korea, going to Netherlands. Like there are stories there. But then one of the things that I think they're going to lean on again is the relationship drama. And I'll be honest, after 6 seasons of Cobra Kai and the Miguel and Sam and Tori and Robbie and the love triangles, and they've kind of, in my opinion, exhausted a lot of that. So if I start watching a Tori and Robbie show and they're having like issues with like another girl or another guy that they should have already learned how to deal with based on, the art of communication and growing up, I think that would start to irritate me, to be honest with you. If they get married and they have marital problems and it's down the road, I could see that being interesting. But again, this one I'm not as like, I'm not against it. It would just be, I think it has more legs than the Eli and Hawk one, but I don't know if now is the time for this. What do you think?
More than anything, I think the stars of that show are getting too big to be a part of something like that, especially for an ongoing series. But that being said, I agree with you that it's better than the Eli and Hawk television show or whatever it might end up being. And I've seen fans talk about this. Obviously, it was a pretty big moment in the 6th season, but I haven't seen the showrunners actively discuss that. So I don't know exactly whether or not that's on their radar, or if it's just the fans kind of hopeful that something can happen. Even still, the idea of seeing Tory and Robbie as the leads of a show with all the drama that can be brought with them traveling the world and doing karate, that's interesting. Again, but you're right. The idea that exploring their relationship more is kind of treading the exact same territory that we were covering extensively in Cobra Kai, and that you don't really know how long that drama is going to hold people. So you have to kind of focus that entire story on how exciting can you make the fights, because you've seen this drama before, what's going on around them that's going to keep people's attention. And the problem with that is that you get into this, like, you have to constantly up the stakes, the ante, and push it forward every single time. And you run into the same problem that, I mean, quite frankly, most animes run into, at least shonen animes, but also the original Karate Kid movies, where each individual antagonist is just like the most dangerous person to have ever done karate, and like at least in the present day, right? Where you're literally going up against a world killer in order to keep the tension high, because everything else happening around it isn't as interesting, because that ground was already well trotted in the first film, right? I don't know. This one seems interesting to me, but quite frankly, it's like, is it necessary? Is this something that they could even pull off for multiple seasons, or are the stars getting too big to want to be a part of something like that? Is it better off as a movie? Is it better off as some kind of other continuation? I'm not sure.
Now, another one that we got a couple more here is a lot of folks, and I'm included in that, want to know what happened to Axel after the tournament loss to Miguel, and he pretty much left the Iron Dragons. He pretty much left Sensei Wolf out to dry. Now, okay, as much as I would love to see what happened to Axel, and Patrick Lewis is a good actor, which is the actor that plays Axel, I don't know if a stoic Russian, if that would, or Russian type, like an Ivan Drago type, could manage his own show. I don't see how that's possible. I think the best use of Axel, as much as I'm interested in seeing what happens to him, is actually doing what Creed did with Drago, which is you keep him away for a while, and then years down the road, when the time comes to do a Cobra Kai The Next Generation, which is the next thing I'm going to talk to you about, and everybody comes back, whether it be a movie or a TV show, whichever way they want to go, then you reintroduce Axel, and then you have him explain what happened after the Sekai Taikai, whether it be that his life went into shambles, or maybe he did find love. Like, I found myself wanting more out of the character, but I also, again, don't think he can, that character, not the actor, but the character can really have his own show. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like you're saying, you'd have to do some kind of legacy continuation years down the road where we're far enough away, and I don't remember the name of the character. Is it Barnes from the third Karate Kid movie?
Mike Barnes, yeah.
Yeah, like it would be that role. Like, that's literally all it would be.
Yes.
And the problem is like, that's fine, but it kind of, like, I know like Cobra Kai was very successful on Netflix, but even doing any type of legacy sequel kind of implies that the audience who loved Cobra Kai is going to continue to love any continuation of the Karate Kid for long enough to make that story meaningful. as far as it is now, like Axel having any type of continuation immediately just doesn't make sense to me. He was a very straightforward, basic antagonist that was created at the last second in order to give some kind of, oh, this is like the new threat that we have to conquer within like the last, what, theoretically, like
Last
8
10 episodes.
episodes,
Yeah,
10 or so
10,
episodes,
yeah.
of the entire series. Is like, interesting character. I would like to see what happens to him, but it's not necessary. And I honestly, I don't know if I would waste my time.
Now, I just thought of one that actually, there is one that I do want to see. Now, I don't know how popular it would be, and maybe I'm in the minority here. I might be. That's why I have you here. I feel like the Korean Cobra Kai team, I think, I'll be honest, one of my issues with season 6 part 3 is that you never got a chance to lead the Cobra Kai team. You've got these Koreans, you've got that whole story with Sensei Kim, and then of course at the end, we saw like the Sensei Kim and Chosen get together. I would like another story with the Korean Cobra Kai. Now, again, I know that, they're not going to connect with the audience like the American actors would or the English-speaking actors would. I know that. But I'm also somebody who grew up loving martial arts movies, so I saw Asian faces a lot in my life, so that's not really a big deal to me. But I do feel like, I did feel like when Cobra Kai ended, that the Korean Cobra Kai team, or at least Sensei Kim's group, was maybe shelved without, much resolution. What do you think?
Well, kind of like what you were saying with you could have as much Tory on your screen as possible. I could have as much Sensei Kim on my screen as possible.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You do that. I forgot that about you.
So yeah, I could certainly see more Sensei Kim if that's what they want to do. But quite frankly, it's like I just don't see them doing it.
Me
Like you
neither.
said, like I said, the biggest problem we have here is that Netflix does make content and appeal to wide swaths and even like the most micro fan bases of all time. But we're talking about any type of continuation of Cobra Kai, which is quite frankly one of their biggest series of all time.
Yeah.
If they follow it up, it needs to kind of appeal to the masses, and that's what they're going to be looking for.
Yes, I agree. Now, okay, here are the last couple ones here, and this would be, I know you and I talked about a movie, but there's two different ways it can go about this. So the continuation of Cobra Kai, which would be, not yet, not anytime soon, but in a few years, you've got characters that were introduced in the middle seasons, or at least developed in the middle seasons, that weren't really focused on in the last 5 episodes. Namely, Kenny Payne, who had like no lines, I don't think. You've got Anthony, who had a few. And then you've got like, I mean, there's a few, right? You've got like, I don't want to say like penis breath, but there's a few characters that, specifically Anthony and Kenny, actually, that I think
Devin.
Devin as well. You know what? That's great. Yeah, Devin too. And I feel like they were kind of left in the dust. There just wasn't enough time. So you could do a Cobra Kai show, which is still in the Valley, and you still got Ralph Macchio and William Zabka playing Daniel LaRusso and Johnny Lawrence. But now that all the teenage characters are out, like they're all gone off to college, well, what's left now in the Valley is Anthony, Kenny and Devin. And then you devote the show to them and their experiences with the Cobra Kai dojo. Now, that's one way they could go about it, because that would give the fans of those characters something. But I feel like logically what they're going to do is they're not going to do it right away. But I do think it's inevitable that in about 10 years, we will get a new Cobra Kai series. Meaning it'll be the characters of Miguel, Tory, Robbie, Eli. They all come back to the Valley. This time they're grown-ups. They may have kids of their own. They may not have kids of their own. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. And as we get further in the years, now we've got Daniel and Johnny both really becoming Miyagi, because they're getting up there in age. Now, it might not be for 10 or even 15 years. but I think this is going to happen. I think that there's going to be a revisitation of all these characters under one roof at some point.
I think it makes more like, I agree with you in a sense, but it's going to be really interesting because you're talking about a series that's going to inevitably happen within the next 10 or 15 years, it matters more what the environment of streaming or just
That's true.
in general, like, content creation is going to be.
And I do hope that Ralph Macchio stays healthy, because you know what I mean? I hope they all stay healthy.
Right. No, I mean, obviously that goes without saying. We don't want to see anyone like pass away unexpectedly or too soon. And not that, they're still really young, and they're obviously in good health and are, continuing this in the best way they can. I was saying, like, what's going to have the ability to be greenlit in 10 or 15 years? I mean, I don't know now, let alone then, right? So
no, it's true.
I'm sure the idea that Cobra Kai has reinvigorated the Karate Kid probably more. I've actually argued with this, like, with other people, and I've talked about it with you before, that I have this sneaking suspicion that if you go back, if you were to actually analyze it, that the Karate Kid franchise has benefited more from the rising of streaming and the reboot of a legacy content, like a legacy franchise, probably more than anything else.
Yes,
because
unquestionably.
Because you started this video talking about, like, look, we got the original 4 Karate Kid movies. We got that 2011, what we thought was kind of a remake.
The 2010 in a different Jackie Chan, yeah.
Oh, is it 2010? Yeah. It was like we thought it was kind of a remake, but now it turns out that, like, no, all this stuff happens in the same world. And then, like you said, because of, like, this weird domino effect of Harold and Kumar leading to the benefit and kind of proliferation of How I Met Your Mother, and the joke about the Karate Kid within that, leading to this particular series starting on YouTube, getting canceled, but having enough content to be put on Netflix kind of unceremoniously, but enough watch time accumulated to make this a 6-season television on Netflix in the year of our Lord 2025 is kind of unspeakable. They do not give shows 6 seasons on Netflix anymore. So there's something to be said about the popularity
they
of this
made
series.
us care about the characters, man. That's why.
And I'm saying, like, there's something about the popularity of this series and the inevitability of continuing it, even if it's not the same people who made Cobra Kai. Sony was like, hey, there's a lot of anticipation here. We're going to continue it, and we're going to continue the trend that nothing here is going to contradict what came before. So it's a very consistent franchise. There's something to be said that, maybe in 10 years, even if it might peter out in the next couple years, say we get Karate Kid Legends 2 and 3 or a Cobra Kai movie or a new television series or something, this is something that can continue that long in advance. And like, at a certain point, a Cobra Kai legacy sequel makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and this time, like, we know the kids would be the adults, and then the adults would be the grandparents, and then you've kind of got a new dichotomy. Then you can introduce new characters and just kind of start the cycle over again. That works. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the Cobra Kai movie, because we talked about this. So, if they do a movie, one of the benefits of doing a TV show is that with a TV show, it gives you more time to flesh out characters. This is why Daredevil is so beloved. This is why the Penguin was so well received, because you had backstory. It was plenty of time to show us how these people became these people. Whereas with a 2.5 hour movie, you've got 2.5 hours. Now, if we've already got characters that were already fleshed out in Cobra Kai, making a movie like a Cobra Kai movie starring William Zabka and Cholo and, Ralph Macchio, just bringing back the whole crew, I think makes a lot of sense. The question then would be, do you bring all the characters back? Because if you have a movie with too many characters, it tends to become convoluted. It tends to become, you and I have talked about Star Wars, and I feel like the sequel trilogy kind of made some mistakes in introducing too many characters while also having the legacy characters, which I think, again, that works for TV, but not so much a movie. So, do you think it could work, and how do you think it would work, a Cobra Kai theatrical movie? I think it would make money for sure.
It would. Actually, the more interesting, not more interesting, but some interesting aspect here is that you and I have discussed this kind of off air, that one of the more interesting things that are happening with Netflix right now is Greta Gerwig. And I know this is kind of off topic, but bear with me for just a second. Greta Gerwig is making the Narnia movies for Netflix. And last year there was reports that there was a lot of internal fighting about whether or not her movies for Narnia were going to get a theatrical run. And given the success of Barbie and everything, she has a lot more sway. So it came out recently that no, Netflix is kind of kowtowed and saying, yeah, we're going to give that movie a real theatrical run. And my thought there was, this is great news, because this means that new Netflix movies will probably be put in theaters because they'll see the benefits of this. And we're already starting to see the benefits of that, because they've announced that the Peaky Blinders movie that they've been developing is actually going to get a theatrical run.
Right.
I can't imagine if they do a Cobra Kai movie that it wouldn't get a theatrical run if Narnia and Peaky Blinders are an active success for the brand, like Netflix as a whole, right? So they put it up, they make a bunch of money in the box office, and then a couple months later they put it on Netflix. And because of that theatrical run and the cultural awareness of it being a real theatrical movie, brings a lot of people into the service who skipped it in theaters to watch it again. Cobra Kai would benefit immensely from that. And I think that that's one of the things that we're going to have to look forward to. And like we were saying just a couple of minutes ago, we don't know what the landscape of releasing anything is going to look like in 10 or 15 years, but this could certainly be at least a perception of what we're going to be able to see here in the next couple of years. And that's going to fall right in the line of, well, Cobra Kai has been dormant if they don't do any prequel series or whatever they're going to do.
Well, even if they do a prequel series, the characters of Cobra Kai are still dormant, because if it's a Miyagi series, then they won't be there. Right,
exactly.
So we can still miss them.
Right, exactly. But getting back to your point here, I want to see a Cobra Kai movie, but I don't want to see a Cobra Kai movie that aims to pick up all the lingering story threads or all the characters from the original series. If you do that, that's another sequels. That's just telling a story naturally as it comes across. To me, it would be, and it kind of has to be, it has to be Johnny and it has to be Miguel. They started the show. If there's any meaningful continuation, that's the direction I'd like to see it go. And we left Miguel going to Japan with Sam. It's possible that, you pick that up in 2, 3, 4 years, see how he is, kind of do what is the equivalent of Karate Kid 2, but as a Cobra Kai movie or something like that. I would be interested in seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing they could do, because Cobra Kai, a lot of Cobra Kai is Saved by the Bell. And if you follow Saved by the Bell, you may remember that there was a Saved by the Bell movie that was supposed to act as like the series finale. And I could, like a vacation thing. So if they want a way to bring the characters back without forcing it, they could just do a movie set where they're all in college, but it happens to be summer vacation. So they all come back to the valley, and then the plot would be, they hang out and they still train and whatnot, but then something happens, something bad. Character appears or something, I don't know. And then, or maybe even Johnny's new Cobra Kai students, maybe some of them resent Miguel or are envious of him. There's a lot of ways it can go. And you could just bring all the characters back in like a summer vacation thinking everything's going to be all right, but then some drama unfolds. And I think that would be the easiest way for them to bring everybody back to where it makes sense, and you don't have to focus on, you don't have to focus on any of the characters too much, because you've already done that in the show. So I think after Karate Kid Legends, if that would be the next film, I would be fine with that. I would be fine with it, sort of like a one-shot adventure. They have a problem, they resolve it by the end of the movie, and we're done. Or they turn it into a trilogy. I mean, I think a lot of studios are hesitant of making things into trilogies because if the first movie flops, it's over. However, I think with something like Cobra Kai, I trust these writers, I trust these showrunners, and I trust the fan base. If you open with a good first film, they could do a trilogy and it would be fine.
Right. I mean, with kind of a feel good summer vacation and college movie, one of the things you could do, and this is literally off the top of my head, but you have Demetri and Hawk. They are developing a Cobra Kai video game based off the VR set thing they introduced in the
I
season
love it
in
already.
season 6.
I love it already.
And you then bring in the Iron Dragon and I guess some connection, Terry Silver or whatever. Like they come in to steal that, and then there's just a fight in the valley about like stealing that technology or whatever, and there's more fights. I don't know. It's just something stupid, right? Something not stupid, but like
Silly.
free loving and silly. Yeah.
Yeah, lighthearted.
That type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I agree. And then and for these movies, you would probably have Johnny and Daniel just take a back seat because all of the adult rivals are gone. I mean, Terry Silver's dead, John Kreese is dead, Sensei Wolf is out there, but the way that his character ended in the movie, it was almost implied like he just went back to Thailand to go fight in MMA. Like he wasn't like vowing revenge on Johnny Lawrence. The fact that he bowed to him at the end, it did make up for how much of a dick he was to Johnny Lawrence, injuring him before the fight. Of course
Right.
not, but it did sort of say, okay, well, I lost. I'm going to go train and get better. That's the way that I took that. So with there not being any adult enemies, and they could always make new ones. I mean, Karate Kid Legends is going to have Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio fight. We know that. There's going to be some Chinese enemies. I don't think it takes place in the Valley at all. Based on everything I've seen, it's either in China or across like New York somewhere else. It's not going to be in the Valley. And they could actually do that with Cobra Kai as well, where they don't go back to the Valley. They go somewhere else. And, a different part of the country or the world. So there's a lot of potential there. It's the idea of, like the writers would say, getting in the writer's room. That's what they've always commented on. And really brainstorming what location works best, when to set it, and how to and what story they want to tell. And that's something that, I mean, this is just one video. You and I could sit here and probably come up with a script within a year, but that's not our job. So let's not do
that. No, for sure. But like, that's one of the best things about Cobra Kai. I'll kind of leave it at this, is that, again, it's not a series that ever needed to be made, but you did have people who were genuinely passionate about the franchise as a whole and the characters introduced within that franchise to make something meaningful, or at least, emotionally impactful, that was fun to sit there and watch 6 seasons of. And man, that seems so foreign these days.
Not just that, but I think Cobra Kai makes the movies better. Like, I was never too big on Karate Kid 2 and 3. I didn't hate them, but they were just sort of there. But I think Cobra Kai actually, with the way that the characters wound up, like Barnes, Silver, Chosen, it actually makes Karate Kid 2 and 3 better, which is the actual opposite of what the sequel trilogy did, where the sequel trilogy harmed all the predecessors. That just goes to show that when you have showrunners that really care and understand the source material, you can actually take things and improve upon the past. It's just, as you pointed out, it's very difficult to find that. It really is. Anyways, that's it for this edition, bro. Thank you for being here, and check out, well, you plug the channel, bro, because you've got a couple, but you're still doing the
I'm still doing, Real Talk and KRW Network.
Okay, so I was about to ask if you were still doing KRW.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Okay, because Real Talk. But wait, do you want me to plug both of them, or do you want me to put both of them in the description?
You can do whatever you want, man. I'm trying my best, but like, I'm not promising anything.
Well, that's okay. Check out Real to Real, y'all. So take care.